The first thing Elias noticed after the capture was the silence. Not the peaceful kind, the kind that settles when engines shut down, when power drains, when something enormous and alive decides it no longer needs to make noise, because it has already won. The humming of his survey skiff had vanished. The steady vibration of its hull was gone. Even his own breath sounded wrong, echoing too loudly inside his helmet. Darkness pressed in from all sides. A moment earlier, he had been skimming the edge of the Talaris expanse, mapping gravitational distortions for the Colonial Science Directorate. Routine work. Boring even. Then the stars bent. Not exploded. Not vanished. Bent. Space folded inward like fabric pulled through a ring, and the skiff had been dragged. Not smashed, not torn apart. Simply taken. Elias floated now, restrained by a translucent field that wrapped his body like invisible hands. He tried to move his arms. The field tightened in response, warm and firm, as if correcting a child. "So you're awake too." The voice came from his left. Female. Calm, but edged with strain. He turned his head as much as the field allowed. Another human floated a few meters away, similarly bound. Her helmet was cracked, visor retracted. Dark hair drifted around her face in slow, graceful arcs. She looked younger than him, maybe early 30s, with sharp eyes that were already studying the space around them. "Elias Rourke," he said automatically, training kicking in. "Civilian science contractor." She gave a humorless half-smile. "Mara Venn. Former intelligence." Which probably means we're both in the wrong place at the worst possible time. Around them, the darkness pulsed. Not empty space. Something inside something else. The walls revealed themselves gradually. Vast, curved surfaces that glimmered like oil beneath water. Veins of faint light traveled through them, responding to the prisoners' movements, their heartbeats, their presence. "We're not in a ship," Elias said quietly. "No," Mara agreed. "We're in an organism." As if acknowledging the word, the walls shifted. A deep vibration passed through the chamber, resonating through their bones. Symbols, alien, asymmetrical, flared briefly across the surface, then vanished. Mara exhaled slowly. They finally decided to stop watching and start collecting. Elias looked at her. "You knew this might happen." "I hoped it wouldn't," she said. The Kef weren't supposed to exist anymore. The restraints loosened just enough for them to be lowered onto a solid platform that rose from the floor like a living thing forming bone beneath skin. The field dissolved. Gravity returned, lightened but present. Elias staggered. Mara caught him by the arm without hesitation. "Easy," she said. "They like intact specimens." "Specimens," he repeated. Before she could respond, the air in front of them rippled. A figure emerged, not walking, not teleporting, but assembling itself from threads of light and matter. Tall. Elongated. Its body shifted between solid and translucent, as if it existed in multiple states at once. Its voice entered their minds directly. "You are bound by circumstance. You will be studied. Resistance will be noted." Mara straightened. "We're sentient beings, not cargo." Distinction acknowledged. Relevance minimal. Elias felt a cold knot tighten in his chest. The Kef, ancient collectors of consciousness, believed destroyed centuries ago, did not conquer worlds. They harvested minds, experiences, emotional bonds. They believed relationships under stress revealed truths no laboratory could simulate, which meant Elias and Mara weren't captured individually. They were captured together. Time lost meaning inside the Kef vessel. Cycles replaced hours. Tests replaced conversation. The ship reshaped itself constantly, corridors blooming and collapsing like organic puzzles. Sometimes they were separated. Elias subjected to neural resonance scans, Mara forced into simulated environments that reacted to her fear, her anger, her resolve. But they were always brought back together. The Kef observed how their proximity altered biometric responses. How Elias's heart rate stabilized when Mara was near. How Mara's aggression softened when Elias spoke quietly to her during recovery cycles. At first, they resisted in silence. Then they started talking. "I used to believe survival was about strength," Mara said once, sitting beside him on a platform that gently warmed their skin. "Training, discipline, knowing when to pull the trigger." "And now?" Elias asked. "And now I think it's about who you refuse to leave behind." He nodded slowly. "I never thought my work mattered. Mapping empty space. But I think maybe I was trying to understand loneliness on a cosmic scale." She looked at him then, really looked at him, as if seeing something beyond the scientist. The Kef noticed. They intensified the tests. One cycle, the chamber dissolved into a simulated battlefield. Sirens wailed. Gravity fluctuated violently. Mara was pinned beneath a collapsing structure while Elias was given a choice: stabilize the environment at the cost of her life, or save her and trigger system failure. He didn't hesitate. He tore at the control interface with bare hands, ignoring the searing pain as alien energy burned his skin. The world shattered. They awoke together again, unbroken. Observation logged. Attachment supersedes self-preservation. Another cycle, Mara was offered escape. A corridor opened, leading to a pod calibrated to her neural signature alone. Elias lay unconscious, life signs fading. She stood at the threshold, shaking. Then she turned back. She sat beside him, took his hand, and waited for the chamber to reset. The Kef grew curious. During the final phase, they were brought into a vast central chamber. Countless figures floated within the walls, other captives, other minds preserved in crystalline stasis. Some human, some not. The Kef entity manifested again, larger this time, its form layered with shifting geometries. "Your bond has reached optimal intensity," it intoned. "One consciousness may be preserved. The other will be released. Choose." Elias felt Mara's hand tighten around his.
"No," she said.
"That's not a choice. That's mutilation." Inefficient sentimentality detected. Elias swallowed. "Take me," he said quietly. "She survives." Mara turned on him, fury and terror blazing. "Don't you dare." "I mean it," he said. "You can make a difference out there. I'm just—" She grabbed his collar, pulling him close until their foreheads touched. Her voice dropped to a whisper, shaking but fierce. "If we live," she said, "I'm yours. But we live together. Or not at all." The words hit him harder than any gravitational surge. The chamber vibrated violently. The Kef hesitated. Anomaly detected. Bond parameters exceed projected thresholds. Light surged through the walls. The preserved minds around them flickered, resonating with something. Recognition, perhaps. Or memory. Elias felt it then. The Kef were not immune to connection. They fed on it, but they had forgotten how to create it. Mara closed her eyes. "They're afraid," she whispered. "They don't understand us, and that's our weapon." Together, they reached out, not physically, but emotionally. Elias focused on every moment of trust, every shared fear, every quiet laugh in the darkness. Mara poured in her loyalty, her defiance, her refusal to abandon another soul. The chamber screamed. The Kef entity fractured, its form destabilizing as the feedback loop spiraled beyond control. Containment failure. System collapse imminent. Gravity vanished. Light exploded outward. Elias felt himself pulled, stretched, then silence. He woke to stars. Real stars. Cold vacuum pressed against the hull of an escape pod tumbling through space. Emergency lights blinked weakly. A familiar voice groaned beside him.
Mara.
He laughed, breathless, half hysterical. We're alive. She looked at him, eyes wet, a slow smile breaking through exhaustion. Looks like you're stuck with me. Rescue came hours later. The directorate classified the incident, buried the data, denied the Kepha's return. But some things couldn't be erased. Years later, on a quiet outpost at the edge of explored space, Elias and Mara stood beneath an open dome, watching a nebula swirl like living fire. We survived, Elias said softly. She took his hand. Together. And this time, the universe watched, not to study them, but to learn. Rescue did not arrive with trumpets or celebration. It came quietly, almost cautiously, as if the universe itself was unsure whether Elias and Mara truly belonged back among the living. A colonial recovery cruiser emerged from fold space near the drifting escape pod, its lights scanning, hesitating, then locking on. The tractor beam pulled them in gently, like hands afraid of breaking something fragile. Inside the medbay, machines hummed and soft voices murmured, but Elias barely heard any of it. He watched Mara instead, watched the rise and fall of her chest, the faint twitch of her fingers as neural stabilizers pulsed light across her skin. They were alive. That single truth felt unreal. Days passed before they were cleared for full consciousness. Debriefings followed, long, repetitive interrogations where officials asked the same questions in different ways, hoping to catch contradictions, hoping to prove the Keph were still only a myth. But Elias and Mara told the same story every time. Not of weapons, not of tactics, of connection. Of a species that could dissect stars, but could not comprehend why two fragile beings would refuse to let go of each other. Eventually, the questions stopped. The reports were sealed. Officially, the Keph encounter was categorized as a localized anomalous event with no surviving hostile intelligence. Unofficially, the directorate was afraid. Afraid because something ancient had nearly returned, and had been undone not by force, but by feeling. Mara was offered her old position back. She declined. Elias was promoted, given access to deeper space projects, the kind that came with prestige and isolation. He turned them down too. Instead, they requested a joint assignment, a long-term research and monitoring post on the outer edge of charted space, where the stars thinned and the unknown still pressed close. The request baffled the directorate, but they approved it anyway. Outpost Helios 9 was small, quiet, and deliberately overlooked. A dome of reinforced crystal sat atop a lonely planetoid, its sky permanently awash in the slow, luminous drift of a violet nebula. It was there, beneath that open sky, that the weight of survival finally settled. One night, months after the rescue, Elias found Mara standing alone beneath the dome, staring out into the cosmic storm. "You're doing it again," he said gently. She didn't turn. "Making sure it's still real? Wondering what we brought back with us." That made him pause. He stepped beside her, the nebula painting both of them in shifting light. "Do you think they're gone?" he asked. She was quiet for a long time. "No," she said at last. "But I don't think they'll come the same way again. We showed them something dangerous." "Dangerous how?" Mara finally looked at him. Her expression wasn't fearful.
It was resolved.
"We reminded them that intelligence without attachment is incomplete. That survival without choice isn't living." She swallowed. "And that bonds don't weaken a species. They terrify anyone who can't break them." Elias reached for her hand. She didn't hesitate this time. Her fingers intertwined with his naturally, as if they had always belonged there. "You remember what you said," he murmured. Her lips curved into a small, knowing smile. "Which part?" "If we live," he said softly. She stepped closer, resting her forehead against his chest. Her voice was steady now, no longer a promise made under duress, but a choice. "I meant it," she said. "Not because we survived, but because we chose each other when it mattered most." Above them, the nebula flared brighter for a moment, its currents shifting like something alive responding to an unheard rhythm. Somewhere far beyond human space, remnants of the Kef drifted in fragments of thought and memory, forever changed by the encounter. They would rebuild. They always did. But they would remember. They would remember two fragile beings who broke an ancient system not with defiance alone, but with devotion. And so Elias and Mara remained at the edge of the known universe, not hiding, not waiting for the next capture, but watching. Together. Not as specimens. Not as survivors. But as proof that even in the coldest reaches of space, connection could still rewrite the rules of existence. And if the universe ever tried to take them again, it would have to take them both.